Meanwhile, efforts to prevent fraud and the scamming of unsuspecting South Africans continues, with new measures introduced to curb the practice. The South African Fraud Prevention Service, is aggressively working with industry leaders in banking and insurance to launch a number of consumer education campaigns starting in the month of May. CEO Manie Van Schalkwyk joins us for this discussion. Thank you so much for your time, Manie. Let's start here about the measures that have been put in place in terms of efforts to curb fraud and scams, which are seemingly on the rise in this country.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to your show. We have seen, maybe just a bit of context, as this Southern African Fraud Prevention Service is a not-for-profit organization which was started about 20 years ago by the banks and the retailers to curb fraud. We have seen scams specifically, and I'm making a distinction between fraud and scams in the sense that I think scams is the art that people develop to convince you to get rid of your money. If somebody phones you and claim they're from the bank, and they are so good that you believe that they're from the bank when you provide them with your PIN, or they convince you to do an investment somewhere, and it's a fake investment. But there are various ways that people convince us to part with our money eventually. And we saw a rise of about 600% in the last 4 years. And we decided with industry to go on head with the fraudsters and fight scams. So we have launched a consumer brand, IMA meaning stop, and the payoff line is stop, think, and don't get scammed. And what it will do is a free service to consumers to provide them with tools. So number one, to report scams in the central area. Number two, we provide them with tools like, for instance, to tell them that they are on a fake website, that they're on a fraudulent website. We give them tools to phone their bank without listening or taking numbers from scammers or fraudsters, and they can contact the bank directly by dialing 3 numbers. We provide them with tools like a score to say, well, we think this website that you are on is fraudulent. And we took our leave from the UK and the Netherlands, where, just to give you an idea, in early stages of these organizations, last year they stopped 30,000 websites. They closed them down. They closed about 100,000 handsets and telephone handsets and blocked so many numbers as well. So it is products that work for consumers. And so that is on the one side. On the other side, we're creating an anti-scam war room with business so that we, as a community, can stand together and fight these scammers and fraudsters.
Manie, it also becomes quite important in current day because South Africa faces being under that grey list from the international body FATF. My question then becomes, to what extent are these efforts aimed at ensuring that South Africa is aided towards getting off that list that deems us quite negative and vulnerable to the likes of money laundering?
100%. I think what everybody in the business community should stand together and try to prevent this grey listing. And therefore, I think it is definitely helping in the event. And this is definitely making it more difficult for fraudsters and scammers to get hold of our money and then swindle it somewhere else.
Let's also talk about South Africa's will to ensure that we safeguard our money as a country as well as that of consumers. There's been debate over the last couple of months that South Africa is seemingly too ripe for fraud and corruption.
Yeah, I think we country number 3 in the world in terms of fraud and corruption, and that is not a prize you want to win. And I think we sometimes kind of look at other people to solve it for us and find ways to do it. And now we are giving a tool to both businesses and consumers to say we need to fight this together. And the more uncomfortable we make it here for fraudsters and make it more uncomfortable for scammers, the chances that they will go somewhere else is very good. And therefore, I think it is important that we take HEMA and we embrace it and we fight this to benefit both consumers and business.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your insights. Manie Van Schalkwyk is the CEO at the Southern African Fraud Prevention Service.